What up, what up, what up, what up? Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I didn't change my background. Oops. Give me a second. Give me a second. Turn the music off. Put the space background on in the background. Oop, 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 oop. It's falling apart already. The stream is ruined. Ah! Give me a second. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Happy Thursday. Glad you're here. Where in the world is the background I usually use for the stream? It's the stars. It's the stars in space. There we go. Welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you made it. Big applause for you. I hope you had a great week. We do not have AI developments as the current topic. Man, every time I go live, I'm like, all right, I got everything ready. And then the moment I go live, I catch my mistakes before we've even begun. Glad you're here. I hope you had a great week. It has been a crazy week in terms of the world of news, as it always is. But that's how things go nowadays. Before we get to the news and politics and whatnot, discussion of the week, I kind of wanted to just start this stream with something a little bit more lighthearted, something that I've been following over the last few days, and that I've been like, it's a great story. It's a great story. I'm gonna share my hyperfixation that I've had over the last few days with you, because hopefully it'll bring you a little bit of joy like it has for me. And that story is Punch, the baby Japanese monkey. If you have heard of this, I'm sure you're going to be excited for this. I certainly am. So, my understanding is there's a monkey in Japan, a little 6-month-old baby monkey whose mother abandoned him. To help this baby monkey cope with its abandonment, the veterinarian team or like his handlers gave him a plushie of an orangutan. I'm covering it up here, look. And so this orangutan plushie is his like mother in his eyes, you know what I mean? And he takes this little plushie everywhere with him. It's genuinely both heartbreaking and very cute at the same time, because he's trying to like navigate this space in this zoo with like no support from any other monkeys really. Initially when he first joined the zoo or whatever, like he was being rejected by a lot of the other monkeys socially. But there have been some positive signs of like some of the other monkeys socializing with him. I saw a video of where like one of the other monkeys started to groom him for lice. So I kind of just want to watch some videos of Punch, because I genuinely love Punch, and I think he deserves the world and more. So just for a little bit, we'll get to politics in a second, but as the stream kind of populates, join me on this little tiny rabbit hole about Punch the baby monkey.
Well, a little monkey in Japan is making improvements in his life.
The baby monkey is moving on from plush friends to real-life primate pals. The 6-month-old named Punch found comfort in a stuffed orangutan after his mom abandoned him. Punch is now living with a troop of macaques, and he's making some friends.
Yeah, he still brings his stuffed animal with
God.
him, but the zoo says he's deepening his interaction with some of the other animals. Punch was even spotted hopping onto a monkey's back. So it's safe to say he's going more and more comfortable.
I need you to understand that whatever news outlet this is, WDTN TV, I don't know who that is. They are very much overplaying how well of a time Punch has had. It has looked like a bit of a nightmare for poor little Punch. They're trying to make it feel good. At times, it's heart-wrenching.
I love how he holds the stuffed monkey though, and how he cuddles with it. That is just so cute. I could watch video of Punch all day. I
Punch is
understand
adorable.
why our producer Avery loves it so much.
Yes, I wonder how large Punch will be once he's full grown.
Oh, I wish he would just stay that size. He's so
Forever.
cute.
We're gonna have to
look
do it.
look how much bigger though he is, or the stuffed animal is than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do a checkup on Punch here in the next couple of months.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for your coverage. I don't care. I just want raw video. Short videos here. CNN covered them. I don't care about CNN. Here. New York Times? I'm not alone in my desire for this coverage. Like even the New York Times is covering Punch. You know what I mean? So this is topical. This is timely. All right, be done with your advertisement. This is probably I probably can't have that music on my stream. It's probably copyrighted. After a difficult labor, she's like, "This was so difficult. I don't want to look at you." Like, it's genuinely, it does break my heart because of like how much he clings to that stuffy. Instead, Punch is often clung to zookeepers and a large stuff. Yeah. It's from IKEA. Shout outs to IKEA for the stuffed monkey, I suppose. Yeah, I want audio. I don't like it that it doesn't have any audio. I don't want to go to Facebook because that'll just blast my Facebook. Maybe we could go to Instagram? That might be safe, yeah. There's no audio on this one either. Dang it. Fine. We'll go to YouTube.
Meet Punch. This 6-month-old Japanese monkey was abandoned by his mother at birth, but zookeepers stepped in, caring for him day and night by hand.
Shout out CNN.
And his surrogate mom, a plushy orangutan that is now his safe place and a stand-in for his mother's fur. Punch's story went viral, with many both on and offline cheering him on. Now he is slowly joining the troop, but still clings to his stuffed friend.
All right, cool. I hope you guys have enjoyed just this little peek into Punch the Baby Monkey. This has been most of what my timeline has looked like over the last several days. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the actual news of the week. All right. On today's agenda, we got Prince Andrew being arrested. I think Prince Charles made a formal announcement that his brother was detained. And again, like, I haven't looked super into it. This stream usually kind of serves the purpose of me diving deep into these stories, because I just kind of hear stuff or read small snippets of things while my workday is going, and then when we get here, this is where we kind of dive into that stuff more deeply. But I think, based off of what I read, that the British, English, I don't know the distinctions in the region, outlets had reported, or even the government had reported, that someone had been detained due to their actions while they were in office. It wasn't like formally stated that former Prince Andrew himself had been the one who was detained, but then I think his brother then made a statement and said, yes, my brother, paraphrasing, was that person. So we'll talk about that. After that, we will talk about the is it the Board of Peace? I want to say it's called. What is it called? Yeah, Board of Peace. The thing about the Board of Peace is that it is very blatantly just kind of a not the UN body. It's like it's just Donald Trump's what is it? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Like, I hate it when I struggle to find my words, and I blame the fact that English is my second language and that I forgot my first language. It's just not the UN. It is the evil UN, the evil twin of the UN. And it has a lot to do with just blatantly the fact that we are, as the United States, ramping towards a eventual war with Iran. So that's kind of the same topic. We'll talk about both in one topic at the same time. After that, we'll talk about recent ICE protests. More specifically, I want to talk about how many fucking MAGA brain-rotted adults are trying to, like, start violence against teenagers as they're protesting ICE, and then those teenagers proceeding to fucking beat the shit out of MAGA adults. It gives me a lot of joy. We'll also talk about the high schooler who stood on business when one of his classmates or something was making a pro-ICE protest in the hallways, and then he just sucker punched that kid. We're going to talk mostly about student ICE protests. And then after that, we will talk about Tucker Carlson being detained by Israel, apparently. Those are kind of the highlights of the week that I wanted to get into. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into it. Woo! I feel like the soundboard is super cheesy, but we do our best, especially when we're doing news coverage and can't really play music because I don't want to instill kind of an emotional thing into the coverage. So we have to get creative with the sound decisions. All right, New York Times. I pulled up a few things, a couple videos, looks like 2 articles. I'm happy to hear that different governing bodies across the world are making the decision to hold people found in the Epstein files for misconduct, hold them to account. And this is truly like the first real big just person in the Epstein files that is being held accountable for their actions. I don't know. I really want to know the context about this image because, good God, everyone in this picture looks terrible, but especially he looks catatonic in that picture. All right. Britain updates. Former Prince Andrew is released after being arrested amid Epstein revelations. Oh, this is an update. ET? That's not Eastern Standard. That's got to be a different... Is it Eastern Standard? What time zone is that? What time zone is ET? Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who is still under investigation, was seen leaving police custody on Thursday evening after being detained on suspicions of misconduct in public office. Blah, 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 blah. Here's the latest. The British police on Thursday evening released Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, after taking him into custody for several hours, intensifying a long-running crisis for the monarchy over his ties to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The detention and questioning of Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, once seen as a dashing war hero and the favorite son of Queen Elizabeth II, was a staggering blow for the monarchy. I want to know why he's considered a war hero. And the favorite son of Queen Elizabeth. Who would say that? Who would say that one's my favorite? Even if it's true, like, who the fuck says that? It's irrelevant. It was the first time in modern history that a member of the British royal family had been arrested. Last time was in 1649 when Charles I was executed for treason during the English Civil War. The first time in, like, modern history. Times Insider explains who we are, blah, blah, blah. After British police arrested and then released Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on Thursday, New York Times reporters in London had to make a series of swift decisions in their coverage. Some based on how the legal system in Britain works, and some based on what we know, didn't know, or were still confirming. Is that the first video? I guess we'll look at that. Oh, I don't want your stupid ads. We have different videos. We'll do that. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, let's go to the video. This is The Guardian. Stupid ads. PBS. Trusty PBS.
The NewsHour. There were shockwaves across the UK today after the arrest of the former Prince Andrew on suspicion of misconduct in public office. His arrest reportedly linked to the latest release of the Epstein files.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he's now known, was taken into custody at the Royal Sandringham estate and later released. An arrest of this magnitude involving the sibling of a reigning monarch has no precedent in modern British history. We begin our coverage tonight with this report from correspondent Chris Shipp and our partners at ITV News.
I do want to quickly say, oh gosh, I still haven't updated the topic. Every time we move on from a topic, we got to go to a new one. Prince Andrew arrested. Glad I caught that 5 minutes late. I do want to say that my understanding for why he was arrested had little to do with like any possible misconduct that he may have engaged in, like in terms of child trafficking or sex accusations. These are all alleged. My understanding is that he was arrested and like investigated more for like what he potentially could have confided to Epstein and their co-conspirators regarding the functioning of the British government and like things pertaining to national security concerns, stuff more along those lines, is what I've heard. Again, hopefully we get this cleared up a little bit more as we dive into this.
At breakfast time, a number of unmarked police cars arrived unannounced, their task to arrest the younger brother of King Charles. Today is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's birthday. He has spent most of it in police.
It's his fucking birthday? Happy birthday, buddy! Go ahead and put your hands behind your back and we'll just clamp these shut. Happy birthday.
Custody answering questions. By 10 a.m. this morning, Thames Valley Police confirmed they had made an arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. At Royal Lodge in Windsor, where Andrew had been living until the start of this month, black vans were filmed entering the grounds earlier today. At midday, the first response from Buckingham Palace.
That's a wonderful photo that they decided to incorporate.
And the statement was signed Charles R., meaning this was from the King himself. He spoke of how he had learned with the deepest concern of his brother's arrest and insisted a full, fair and proper process should follow in terms of the investigation. The King repeated he was ready to fully cooperate with the police, and then in the starkest way possible he wrote, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course."
Period.
And this afternoon, just as he pledged he would, the king continued with his public engagements.
Do you have any reaction to the arrest of your brother, sir?
Your Majesty, how are you feeling after your brother's arrest?
Today's diary did not change, but the
They're so
questions
cordial.
on his arrival.
They're so cordial. It's so weird seeing the British media, English, it's so strange seeing their media cordially like, hey, do you have a reaction? And then they just patiently wait. It's not like dozens and dozens of different outlets all screaming over one another. Because that is the hustle culture of American media. Like, you will push someone to the ground trying to climb over them to give them a question. Hey, do you have a reaction? Please, please, please.
Did.
Have you spoken to your brother, Your Majesty?
He had all his senior staff with him. He knows, just as they know, what a precarious moment this is. As for another of Queen Elizabeth's children, Princess Anne, her diary today included a visit to a prison. She didn't cancel it.
What's your reaction to your brother's arrest, Your Royal Highness?
So why did police launch a criminal investigation? It followed an assessment of the most recently released Epstein files made public by the US Department of Justice. Those files appeared to show emails from the then Prince Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein at around the time they were photographed in Central Park in New York. Police are investigating if confidential papers about business opportunities were shared by the then prince, and if that amounts to misconduct in public office.
Yeah. And this is what I suspected, that it had a lot more to do with, like, just either trading insider information with Epstein, whether that's, like, national security considerations or just, like, trading. My understanding is that this investigation, according to news sources, has little to do with the actual accusations of sexual misconduct.
At the time, Andrew was a trade ambassador on behalf of the British government, a role which would have given him access to sensitive and confidential documents.
Yeah.
The arrest is not connected to claims made by Andrew's accuser, the late Virginia Giuffre. Nor was it the result of new claims a woman was trafficked to Andrew for sex in 2010. Police are still assessing those. The Prime Minister, speaking before today's arrest, said once again, whatever information Andrew has should be shared.
Whether it's Andrew or anybody else, anybody who's got relevant information should come forward to whatever the relevant body is. In this particular case, we're talking about Epstein, but there are plenty of other cases. It is anybody who's got information relating to any aspect of violence against women and girls has, in my view, a duty to come forward, whoever they are.
What I will kind of comment on this, because obviously now the United Kingdom's government, British, English, sorry, I'm really bad at understanding how you guys utilize your terminology for referring to your country. They are launching an investigation to address any politicians or citizens of their country and their misconduct. I believe the French government is also doing the same. Many different countries are now conducting investigations into what they have jurisdiction with. But that will have a lot of overlap, obviously, with how the United States has handled its investigation. And as someone who was a former mainstream media journalist, videographer, and video editor, but also as someone who is increasingly seeing alarm bells go off on just how propagandized Americans are, it truly brings into question just kind of what revelations countries outside of the United States are going to have regarding everything that happened between Jeffrey Epstein and all of his co-conspirators, and then how much of that information will actually reach the American public. I've been seeing on social media, a lot of other political commentators talk about the psychological impact that the release of the entire 3 million documents of the Epstein files has had on the general public's psychological reaction to it. Like, talking about how in a court of law, when a judge and attorneys go through the procedures of presenting evidence to a jury, they do it in such a way where they guide them through the information to process in a manner that won't shock the system. But because the Epstein files were released, like 3 million, just all in a moment, and the Department of Justice did not guide the public through understanding what any of that meant, what their line of reasoning was as they released those files, or the impact on the American public. Like, the DOJ has not guided the American public through anything in terms of comprehending truly what happened. It's been a shock to so many people's systems, including myself, and many others who are trying to digest truly what happened. And because it's also overwhelming and it feels so entirely gigantic, it has propagated, or it's just propagated this environment of shock and overwhelmingness from the public. And so for me, as someone who was a journalist, and I still actively try to practice acts of journalism, I do want to emphasize and say that, like, make the effort to maybe not read into too much of the conspiratorialness that has kind of come out of this environment of reaction from the public. I truly do think that as time progresses, don't lose your rage or anger for what has happened, because it is truly absolutely vile and terrifying. The UN said yesterday, I think, that everything that happened in the Epstein files essentially, what's the word? Sorry. Crimes against humanity. Gosh, it essentially equivocates. God, I hate it when I lose my words. Amounts. Jesus. It essentially amounts to crimes against humanity. So you are within your right to be upset, angry, and want to see genuine change in the world, but also, like, do your best to take care of your own mental health. I saw a comment here. Let me quickly take a look. If the concern is actually national security, then they'll never actually acknowledge what went wrong, and thus whether he's guilty. So will that turn into another cover-up? Yeah, no, it's a genuine, it's a real concern to wonder if how many different governments and entities will just continue to do cover-ups. I think the rest of the world outside of the United States has their heads on their shoulders and, like, practice a degree of communitarianism, where when stuff like this happens, they will genuinely hold the government to account. But I just don't think America can necessarily do that, just because of, one, how much of our resources are invested into a military apparatus, the police force that we have. It would genuinely be very, very difficult to, even through violent means, oppose the American government. But also, like, the culture in the United States is so individualized. We don't have those practices of communitarianism that I think so many other countries practice. I'm all over the place today. If the concern is actually national security, then they'll never actually acknowledge what went wrong, just whether he's guilty. So I feel like I addressed your question or your point. not your question, but yeah, let's move on.
And after the arrest, this response from the Foreign Secretary speaking to ITV News in New York.
There's a police investigation underway, and it is immensely important that that investigation can take its course. As the Prime Minister has said, no one is above the law.
The King was not told of his brother's arrest before it happened. This is a seismic moment for monarchy. King Charles said today his family will continue in our duty and service to you all.
Our thanks to Chris Shipp of ITV News for that report.
Support journalism you trust.
Thank you, PBS. Genuinely support PBS. They're fantastic. CBS. Why did I pick CBS? Maybe it's because they have an 11-minute thing on this. CBS. Let's take a look at their coverage.
Let's begin with this breaking news this hour out of the UK. British police have now arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew. Andrew was detained on suspicion of misconduct. He's been under renewed scrutiny following the release of the latest Epstein files. King Charles releasing a statement about the arrest of his brother, saying in part, quote, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course." Now, for more on this, we're joined by CBS News foreign correspondent.
I do like his this second sentence. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. I do think that is probably the best comment you could make regarding the situation. And it does remind me of the Cuomos, actually, when which Cuomo was it? Was it Andrew, or was it what's his brother's name? Cuomo brothers. What are their names? Andrew. It is Chris Cuomo. Yeah, when Andrew Cuomo was accused of sexual harassment or whatever, and then Chris was just on the air for a while after, talking about like defending his brother, and that just wasn't a good look. And eventually he had to leave the station. It just kind of reminds me of that. I think it's probably in the King's best interest to be like, yeah, I'm going to be completely hands off on this. Justice must be made, and I hope they have like a fair procedure for handling the prince's misconduct. I'm not touching that shit. It's probably the best look, honestly.
The law must take its course. Now, for more on this, we're joined by CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio, who's outside Buckingham Palace this hour. Ramy, this is huge news. When and how was he arrested?
Chanel, yes, good morning to you. Absolute bombshell here this morning. And we understand that at about 8 a.m. this morning, British police arrived at the estate of Sandringham. And now this isn't in London. This is about 3 hours north of here on the northern coast. And we understand that 6 police cars arrived carrying several plainclothes officers, and they did arrest Andrew, the former prince. And this is linked to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender. Not over that, but over the suspicion of public misconduct while in public office, linked to the time that Andrew was a trade envoy. This is back in...
Well, he was a trade envoy. The thing, and again, I'm very ignorant on just kind of many different governing bodies, especially stuff outside of the United States. I need to learn more. There's a lot I need to learn about still, but if he's royalty, I don't understand how it's public office, unless it's just like public office by default, simply by the fact that he's a prince. But the way that they say it makes me think that he was democratically elected. So I kind of want to look into that before we leave this topic later.
the two.
Or if someone knows, just explain it to me.
Thousands when he was traveling the world. And the idea here, the suspicion here, is that he was sharing confidential information to people, including Epstein, for financial benefit for places from Afghanistan to Hong Kong. And now we understand that the police are searching not just Sandringham Estate, but also the Royal Lodge at Windsor, just west of here in London.
Someone mute your phone.
Rami, I understand the king has released a statement. What did he say?
That's crazy. They're live making this breaking news. This was the top search result, and their fucking phone went off.
Yes, the bottom line here is that he said that justice needs to take its course. He has been saying over the past few weeks as pressure has been mounting on his younger brother to come clean, to talk about, to testify even to the U.S. Congress here. So he has said that he supports the police in their investigations, and he and the Queen in the past few weeks have also been saying that they support the victims and that they have their thoughts and their sympathies with them. But, you know, I got to say, it's not just the king that's been coming out here. We've been talking to people in terms of their reactions here. Just a short while ago, I spoke to Roya Nika, who is the royal contributor to The Times, also a CBS News contributor, and I asked her what her thoughts were when she heard the news. Let's take a listen.
236. I want to quickly go back to something he just said.
Has been mounting on his younger brother to come clean, to talk about, to testify even to the U.S. Congress here.
Testify to Congress? When is, out of curiosity, because like if Congress were to get a testimony from Prince Andrew, when are the Clintons set to testify to Congress? Clintons to testify to Congress. Epstein? Because they were just subpoenaed. Agreed to testify in House Epstein investigation. That was February 4th? Did they not? What is this?
Secretary of State.
Hillary Clinton accuses the White House of Epstein files cover-up. Dog, it's 30 years old. This has been happening for 30 years. You're going to blame every White House in the last 30 years or simply Trump's? This is a BBC interview. It's kind of irrelevant. I just want to know when she's set to, or when they're set to testify. Testify. Testify the committee regarding their knowledge. Shut up. It doesn't have the date. It just says that they will testify. I don't really like that. All right, let's continue.
So he has said that he supports the police in their investigations, and he and the Queen, short while contributor, and I asked her what her thoughts were when she heard the news. Let's take a listen.
It's a very big deal. I'm not sure it's that much of a shock. I think that momentum has been moving in one direction in the last few days, and I think it was always inevitable that Andrew was going to be questioned by the police. But let's not mistake this. The arrest of a senior is the first time that a senior member of the royal family has been arrested like this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so you heard Roy and Nika there talking about the reaction here. But looking ahead, this investigation...
Like, they said 1649 or something since... was the last time that someone of the royal family had been arrested? Yeah, 1649. Like, that's before the French Revolution. To put into context, because like the French Revolution is the greatest example of just I would argue it's the greatest example of governing individuals in a governing capacity being executed for making the people unhappy, for lack of a better way to put it. And that was 1789 was the French Revolution. So this is this precedes the French Revolution by 140 years. America was established in 1776. Like, genuinely, we could just say that. When was the Renaissance? Hold on. Renaissance. What period was that? 14th to 17th century? Yeah. We are exiting the Renaissance, essentially, when Charles I was executed for treason. So.
It may go on for as much as 4 days. For example, our partners at the BBC have been reporting that Andrew could be held for up to 96 hours. We're just in the first few hours of this. And with this arrest, they will be going through things from his computers to his files, photographs, anything looking for evidence linking him to Jeffrey Epstein and this suspicion of misconduct while in public office.
And Rami, I just wonder also what this means for the royal family. Obviously, if
I want to roll back on that just real quickly.
Yeah, so you heard Roy and Nika there talking about the reaction here. But looking ahead, this investigation may go on for as much as 4 days. For example, our partners at the BBC have been reporting that Andrew could be held for up to 96 hours. We're just in the first few hours of this. And with this arrest, they will be going through things from his computers to his files, photographs, anything looking for evidence.
That, because I think for a moment I'd forgotten the fact that, like, and again, these other governing entities could make their own investigations. Like, I'm so pigeonholed into the Epstein files that, like, you forget for a moment that the Epstein files only consist of things that the DOJ and FBI were able to grab themselves. But their jurisdiction was largely over Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, they may have obtained stuff that belonged to the co-conspirators, but I think that was largely just, I don't know. This will all be like new evidence, essentially, is what I'm getting to, because this is the British government conducting an investigation. They're going to detain him for 4 days, is my understanding, according to what is being reported here. They're going to look at his computers, his shit, go through his closet, and they may find unique evidence regarding Prince Andrew and how he's linked to Epstein and what Epstein did in regards to Prince Andrew. It's all entirely new evidence that may not even be in the Epstein files, quote unquote. You know what I mean? The floodgates could potentially open.
It's linking him to Jeffrey Epstein and this suspicion of misconduct while in public office.
And Rami, I just wonder also what this means for the royal family. Obviously, a family that's so beloved in the UK.
I could give two
and
shits
heard
about
there
this.
From your guests, that this is the first time a member of the royal family has been arrested. I just wonder if you can speak to how unprecedented this moment is and what this means in terms of the turmoil that must be happening within the house.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talk about the royalty, the monarchy has the firm, but I can't help but thinking that this firm right now under this pressure is cracking. The king came out with a statement very quickly after the news of the arrest of his younger brother came out, trying to in some way get ahead of this, while at the same time we do understand that it may be as close to possible as business as usual, because I say that, for example, Queen Camilla is already out in the public. She was listening to an orchestral performance just in the past hour. We also understand from Roy and Nika that the king himself will be launching the start of London Fashion Week later today. So they're trying to keep this stiff upper lip at the same time while the firm is under massive public pressure.
All right, Rami.
I feel like the question she posed was really more kind of touching on not the cult of personality, but like the celebrityness, the amount of observation the royal family kind of receives from the British English population. What I'm getting at is just kind of like, what was the other royals? I really wish I paid more attention because right now I feel rather foolish. But like, didn't one of the royals marry someone like an American actress or something, and then that led to a whole kind of thing within their population? I wouldn't even know how to look it up, but I just feel like the way that we look at musicians, actors, actresses here in the United States and follow so many celebrities here, it's like that is the Royal Army in the UK. Royal Army. Royal... Good Lord. The Royals in the UK. It's like they just have that celebrity status that people gawk at.
Essential reporting this morning from Buckingham Palace. Thank you, Rami. Appreciate it. I want to bring in CBS News Royal contributor Amanda Foreman now. She's joining us to get more reaction as to what this potentially means for the royal family. Amanda.
Royal family. Thank you so much.
Again, the reaction from King Charles, as you heard Rami reporting there, which is that he wants to see the judicial process play out, that he won't be making any more statements on this. But we just talk about the unprecedented nature of His Majesty, a British monarch, commenting on the arrest of his brother, a man who was at one point second in line to the throne.
Dude, it is... To ignore it would have been suicide. Like, the discourse I see online, just even here in the United States, like, we're not doing shit, but we are fucking furious. And I can only imagine in the rest of the world the kind of actions people might take if their governments were to ignore this. That's why I feel like this is happening, why an investigation is happening into Andrew, why he's been detained along with other countries. You know what I mean? Like, to ignore it would be to do what Donald Trump and the DOJ are doing, which is frustrating the hell out of all of the Americans.
Yes, it is unprecedented. You'd have to go back to the 19th century for something this big. Queen Victoria's son, who became the future king, Edward VII, had to appear in court. He wasn't charged. He was a witness in a cheating case, and it was a huge scandal. And the British public were appalled by what happened, and it had real repercussions for the royal family then. And
hold on.
Scandal, and the British public cheating case, and it was a charge. He was a witness in a cheating case. He wasn't future king, Edward VII.
Edward VII cheating? What kind of cheating? Like being unfaithful? Edward VII cheating. Edward VII was notoriously unfaithful to his wife. Okay. We're alleging child sexual abuse, dog. It's sure you could call it another scandal, but is it equivalent? I would say no.
Had to appear in court in case, and it was a huge scandal. And the British public were appalled by what happened, and it had real repercussions for the royal family then. And since then, the biggest thing was the abdication crisis. Just before World War II, when Edward VIII was going to become king, and he stepped down in order to marry Wallis Simpson, the American divorcee. This is different. This is a criminal case, obviously.
Was that just what I was alluding to earlier?
And concerning the king's younger brother. But if you remember, King Charles said he wanted a slimmed down monarchy. And that slimmed down monarchy has now been in place for over 2 years, and you can see that this was actually a very clever strategy, and is now bearing fruit. Andrew is not part of the working royals.
I wonder as well, Amanda, how much this does and will impact the family's reputation and legacy, especially when you consider, the mounting criticism against the monarchy's role in modern society.
Well, in fact, public opinion shows that the there's less republicanism in the United Kingdom now than there was actually 25 years ago or 30 years ago. The royal family is relatively popular, and its popularity has remained relatively stable. But the former Prince Andrew,
like, I mean, they have a prime minister. They have Keir Starmer. Genuinely, like, and this is me as an outsider looking in. I look at the royal family and wonder to myself if it's like the Kardashians for us. You know what I mean? I can't think of as an American, I can't really wrap my head around like some kind of equivalent way to understand the UK's obsession with the royal family.
Is actually one of the least popular royals anyway, and unless there is explicit connection between him and the king, or him and the Prince of Wales, Prince William, which is totally unlikely, according to people who know. It's great news fodder, but it doesn't actually impact the working royals with a capital W, capital R.
And yet, Amanda, this is, as you pointed out, uncharted territory for the royal family. You cannot imagine, I know that the king has said that he will no longer be releasing any statements until the judicial process weighs out. We should, of course, point out that Andrew Mountbatten has denied all accusations against him. But I do wonder, any interview that the king, and such as he gives, he doesn't give a lot of interviews, but certainly Prince William has given interviews. He gave one as recently as a couple of days ago where he talked about mental health. You can imagine a world where any royal family member in front of cameras or in any kind of discussions or interviews with reporters is going to be asked about this, and that people are going to want to know what their take is on this, and they can punt it to waiting to see how the judicial process plays out. But the idea of being held accountable is something that is sort of alien to the monarchy.
The lack of accountability that the privileged, the wealthy, royalty, aristocracy, that they have enjoyed in the past, I think we can see is really receding in the past. And one of the changes in the 21st century is accountability. There's every indication, and we've seen this from all the recent statements that they have put out, the royal family, that they will want Andrew to be held accountable for his actions. If evidence was to appear that showed other royals somehow in cahoots with him, then that's a completely different kettle of fish. But at the moment, it's one stinky fish, Andrew, frankly, who condemned himself out of his own mouth in an interview that he did on television, and he's now reaping what he sowed.
Do you know, Amanda, before I let you go, if the king would have been made aware that the arrest of his brother was imminent?
Yeah, I feel like this is just all kind of irrelevant. Not irrelevant, but rather like it's just celebrity chasing, like scandal for scandal's sake. Like, oh, can you... But they're not alleging anything. They're not like getting into the details of... I don't know. Maybe it's because I follow the story so much that I'm just kind of like, this is a nothing burger at this point, the rest of their coverage. But hopefully better revelations come out regarding both the prince and then just the deep ties that Epstein had and his infrastructure for this this situation. Yeah. So we could dive more into Epstein, but at this point, it has been a long 2 or 3 weeks at this point since the release of the Epstein files. I'm sure you've been paying attention to a lot of it. I certainly have. The latest kind of thing that kind of really blew my mind was the fact that Epstein had a gynecologist on retainer who works in a university environment at this moment here in the United States. It truly speaks to just the, like, when you think of a pedophile, like you think of just a creepy dude in the park with like a big coat on, but this is an organized event, and everything that we've seen alleged out of the Epstein files indicate an organization, almost like a business type structure to what Epstein was conducting. The magnitude of the people alleged to have conducted misconduct, the amount of people it would have taken, the amount of resources it would have taken to make all this happen. It's truly astounding. And I think for my benefit, I kind of just want to stop here. I hope for your benefit, you take the time to kind of just breathe it in and, well, not breathe it in, but like step away and take a breath, you know, truly. I do have faith that justice will prevail for the victims, and that all of these absolutely vile scum get what they deserve, truly. But yeah, let's move on. I want to move on from this topic. Yeah, we spoke about that for a good 45 minutes. So, yeah. Next up, from one fresh flower of the transition time. We're going to talk about the Board of Peace and the potential war that the United States is facing with Iran. Let's change the topic. Let's see. Am I still streaming? Yeah, we're doing good. Let's go here. Board of Peace. Boom, bop, bib. Right there. Okay. First up to talk about this topic, we got the New York Times. What to know about Trump's Board of Peace. As President Trump's new Board of Peace meets for the first time in Washington on Thursday, our correspondent Anton Trilanovsky explains what the organization reveals about Trump's approach to foreign policy. Yeah, let's take a look. And we got an ad. Love an ad. I've got 4 videos queued up, essentially. All right.
This is the logo to the Board of Peace. It looks a lot like the United Nations logo, except that it's gold, and it has the United States at the center rather than showing the whole world.
Wow.
And this really tells us a lot about President Trump's approach to foreign policy. The Board of Peace started out last fall as an international entity that was supposed to oversee the implementation of the Gaza peace deal. And then over the last couple of months, it became clear that the administration's ambitions for it were much...
Good God. My 2 monitors have pretty different color profiles, but my main monitor really is making him look rancid. The orange you could peel off of his face. It's even on his ears. Like, his ears are real white, but then his earlobes somehow are orange. I'll give my thoughts on the video once we finish. I already have thoughts, but that picture is...
And then over the last couple of months, it became clear that the administration's ambitions for it were much greater. Officials in the Trump administration have been very direct in saying that they're doing this because, in their view, the UN doesn't work.
I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential.
We've seen around 20 countries say they will join the Board of Peace. Countries like Israel, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Hungary, Belarus, Indonesia, countries that are looking for more influence here in Washington. Countries can pay $1 billion into the organization in order to secure permanent membership. And that, of course, reflects the money talks kind of approach of this administration, that foreign policy is not about values, it's about deals. It's also notable who hasn't joined and why. We've seen almost no NATO allies of the US join. They see it essentially as an illegitimate rival to the United Nations. This Board of Peace initiative also really shows us how President Trump is determined to put himself rather than institutions at the center. In the charter of the Board of Peace, he is named as the inaugural chairman. He is the one who can invite members, designate his successor, veto decisions, and even dissolve the board entirely. And perhaps most remarkably, Trump can stay chairman even after his presidency ends. The Board of Peace is really turning out to be a test of how much Trump really can reshape the world order in his image.
Okay, there's a few things that really kind of caught my attention during that short little coverage, and I want to go back. Again, shout out to Anton Trianovsky for his coverage.
The implementation of, and then at the were much greater. Administration of the UN. 20 countries say they will join.
This
the
is
Board
the
of
first
Peace.
thing that kind of caught my
Israel,
attention.
Saudi.
So we'll talk about the allies, I guess, in the Board of Peace, the countries that have joined.
Arabia, Egypt.
I frequently say that Israel is essentially an extension of the United States, but I don't think MENA nations, Middle East, Northern Africa nations, consider Israel to be... I think they definitely look at Israel differently than the United States. Not to say that they wouldn't also potentially agree that Israel and the United States are one and the same, but like because they are two geographic bodies, one is made up of a very dramatically different demographic of people than the other. You can kind of treat them differently. Seeing the fact that Egypt and Israel both have joined the Board of Peace doesn't surprise me because of Egypt's willingness to just kind of do as Israel requests. It's not shocking to me that any other nations surrounding Israel or in the immediate area haven't joined the Board of Peace.
Hungary, Belarus, Indonesia, countries that are looking for more influence here in Washington. Countries can pay $1 billion into the organization.
It is essentially like paying $1 billion is a show of like a capitulation to the United States, almost trying to appease Donald Trump, like, hey, like we will be kind. Whether or not they do have selfish motivations for allying themselves with the United States, it could also just be a passive way to show allegiance
in order to secure permanent membership. And that, of course, reflects the money talks kind of approach of this administration, that foreign policy is not about values, it's about deals. It's also notable who hasn't joined and why. We've seen almost no...
I mean, and this part also doesn't surprise me. With the tariffs that the United States has placed on the rest of the world, we were truly facing what seemed like a global economic catastrophe several months ago. You know, the tariff situation last year that Trump placed on every fucking country in the world, rightfully, I think, made other governments have to look at one another and say, like, we need to collaborate a lot more with one another in order to navigate these dangerous waters that we'll be facing in the immediate future. And I especially recognize, I would say, that Europe has had to collaborate with one another much more. Even today, like literally the last topic about Prince Andrew. The fact that the United Kingdom has decided to investigate Prince Andrew shows, to a degree, a signal that they will be taking a different approach than what the United States has in its complacency. You know, it doesn't shock me that all these nations in Europe have declined to join the Board of Peace, but also because the United Nations exists. It's, in my mind, and I don't think anyone besides myself may say this, but like it truly feels like if we were to teleport ourselves, if we could breathe in space and we could teleport to space and we had binoculars that would allow us to see the events that are unfolding on the planet as it's happening right now, it truly feels like there was like the voice of God. You know, imagine the voice of God. Once upon a time, there was a body of humans who came together seeking to establish world peace on the planet of Earth. But then all of a sudden came those who would oppose world peace. A different coalition. The story that was about to unfold would change the future forever. You know, that's my mindset when it comes to the fucking Board of Peace. You already have the United Nations. And even if Donald Trump has valid criticisms for the United Nations, I don't think it's a good sign that you have a body that has existed for many, many decades now. It was formed after World War II to try to prevent future conflicts like World War I and World War II, with the expressed goal of like mitigating or minimizing international conflict. And to look at that and say, I don't like how you guys are doing it, I'm going to make a second one. That is in and of itself. Anyways.
NATO allies of the U.S. join. They see it essentially as an illegitimate rival to the United Nations. This Board of Peace initiative also really shows us how President Trump is determined to put himself rather than institutions at the center. In the charter of the
and this last part is another thing.
Board of Peace, he is named as the inaugural chairman. He is the one who can invite members, designate his successor, veto decision.
This is a backup plan. The whole structure of how this is shaping up for the Board of Peace and Donald Trump's role in it, it screams to me like his lack of confidence to continue to hold power in the United States, and how after his second term finishes, either before or after, it screams to me that he's like, oh, I'm about to have to face the consequences of all of my actions. And I can't let that happen. So I need a security plan set up in place. So I'm going to be the king of the world. I'm going to be the king of the Board of Peace forever until I die of hopefully natural causes.
And even dissolve the board entirely. And perhaps most remarkably, Trump can stay chairman even after his presidency ends.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the next video. This one comes from Al Jazeera. Qatar also is, I think, part of the Board of Peace. So bear that in mind. As much as I enjoy Al Jazeera for not being an American news outlet, it's also very strange having kind of a liberal piece of a liberal news outlet elsewhere in the world, but it's housed in Qatar, famous for its, well, I don't know if you would call it famous, but a lot of the stuff that I have read regarding Qatar doesn't seem to be very progressive, let's say.
The Board of Peace is supposed to oversee the enforcement of the Gaza ceasefire and reconstruction, and it will be in charge of the body's response.
I forgot to mention that too. How the Board of Peace was formed to like try to rebuild Gaza, and yet, like, fucking Israel is in there. The prime reason why it needs to be rebuilt in the first place. It's all just so miserable.
Responsible for implementation. Opinions have diverged on the board and its mission after invites were extended in January. France, Spain, Norway, and others cited concerns about the board's charter, which suggests it would extend its reach beyond Gaza. They fear it's an attempt to replace the United Nations. Germany and Italy opted out for constitutional reasons, namely that U.S. President Donald Trump would be chairman for life and have the final say on all matters. The UK put off
I mean, to be fair, it's... or not to be fair, but, like, I guess the United States has a very strong presence in the United Nations as well. Like, when the United Nations was calling for an end to the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and when I call it Israel, like the conflict, it was a genocide. When the whole United Nations was making efforts to end the genocide happening in Palestine, the United States vetoed several times, often being the only person not to vote yes. And the United States has such a prominent position of power in the United Nations that if it votes no, the United Nations cannot pass whatever it's trying to pass. That's how strong of a presence the United States has in the United Nations. Why the fuck do we need to make a board of peace? Like we already have pretty much the entire control of the United Nations.
Membership after objections to Russia's invitation. Moscow and Beijing received invites, but have yet to respond.
Based of Russia and China. I continue to be like, the United States is the evil entity in the world. The more and more, now, I mean, for a while now, I've already felt that way for a while, but like, it's still just so insanely frustrating.
Trump rescinded Canada's invitation after the Prime Minister objected to his plan to annex Greenland. The UN and Palestine were not invited.
Exactly.
Arab and Muslim countries that accepted the invites did so on the condition that the board sticks to its mandate of stopping Israel's genocide and rebuilding Gaza. But Israel was invited, even though it's being charged with genocide in Gaza, and the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for it.
That's the wild thing, too. Hold on. Because the way she says this, too, is perfect.
Arab and Muslim countries that accepted the invites did so on the condition that the board sticks to its mandate of stopping Israel's genocide and rebuilding Gaza.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought for a moment she's like, they would only accept it if the Board of Peace said that it would end the genocide, which is the like established goal of the Board of Peace. I don't think that will actually happen, and so I guess it is interesting to see what will happen as time progresses, because I have absolutely no faith whatsoever that the Board of Peace will actually make any effort to rebuild Gaza. At least not in the way I think that would satisfy these countries. Oh, never mind. I didn't actually bother looking. Yeah, no, I don't think any of these countries would actually give a shit. They may publicly say that they care, but the way that the United States and the Board of Peace would rebuild Gaza is by forcing a mass migration and exodus of Palestinian people. Yeah. It's also fucked up.
Sticks to its mandate of stopping Israel's genocide and rebuilding Gaza. But Israel was invited, even though it's being charged with genocide in Gaza, and the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for its prime minister. Membership
Benjamin Netanyahu.
of the board is only 3 years,
It's
unless
a 3-year membership?
countries pay $1 billion.
Oh, okay. I'm reacting way too quickly.
So far, no state has pledged that amount.
Oh, I had a way different impression. I thought they had all given $1 billion. Okay, so you can just be a membership. You get a free 3-year trial, and then afterwards you have to pay $1 billion. Interesting. Israel didn't even do that either?
So far, no state has pledged that amount.
Fucking bums. Israel isn't even like... I mean, that might make sense depending on some of the news coverage we look at later. I've heard a lot in the grapevine of things that Trump is facing like blackmail from both Israel and Iran, allegedly in Minecraft. I want to look and make sure that that's actually the case, but Israel's looking at Trump being like, hey, we have evidence that you had sexual misconduct with kids on camera, and if you don't strike Iran, we'll release that. And then Iran is looking at Trump like, if you fucking attack us, we have the exact same stuff, and then we'll release that. Allegedly, we'll look. But I guess it doesn't surprise me that Israel didn't pay this $1 billion permanent seat thing, because they may just end up becoming, they may just stab us in the back.
Well, for more on the board and today's meeting, we're going to go to Anthony Lowenstein, who's joining us from Sydney. He's an independent journalist and author of The Palestine Laboratory, a book on the Israeli arms and surveillance industry. Anthony, thank you.
Hold on. We'll come back to this. I do want to verify whether or not that is the case. Israel having... Oh, I don't think I could just Google that. For now, I'm talking out of my ass. Everyone... redact everything I just said. I think Iran has made that claim, though. Iran claims to have Trump misconduct content? Iranian hackers successfully breached campaign systems, stealing sensitive internal documents. Maybe. It's also hard for me to like get a sense of like what truly is valid on social media, even if an account is claiming to represent a foreign entity. Me engaging in misinformation. For now, everything I just said, not valid. Let's dial it back. Let's come back to the world of realism and journalism, not sensationalism. My apologies. It was all alleged in Minecraft.
Thanks for joining us. The Board of Peace meeting. $5 billion as a pledge. OK, it's billions of dollars away from what is likely needed, but surely it's better than nothing.
I would question that. I mean, the first point that needs to be said over and over and over again is that there are no Palestinians on the so-called Board of Peace. Now, if you're trying to supposedly repair, rebuild, recuperate Gaza with no Palestinians, you have to ask about the real agenda here. And the agenda really has been pretty clear from the beginning, both from Donald Trump, from Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner and many others, including some in the Arab world. I would argue it's not particularly to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians, but rebuild Gaza for others. In other words, for investment and what I call disaster capitalism. Companies, corporations, individuals who are looking to make a fortune from the development of Gaza. I mean, it's worth saying, and of course Al Jazeera does report this, but it's worth saying to people that there's no ceasefire. There's an official ceasefire, or unofficial.
Well, I wouldn't even call it like an official ceasefire. Like I wouldn't call it a ceasefire. I feel like so much continues to come out of Gaza, and people reporting on the ground that they're still being striked almost every day. Following the days following this ceasefire, you saw different outlets saying that the ceasefire had been broken hundreds of times within the span of days.
Ceasefire, call it whatever you want, from October, but people are being killed every single day. Israel still controls about 58 to 60% of Gaza.
They have control of their water supply, their electricity, their internet. That's not a fucking ceasefire. Like, Gaza and Gazans don't have autonomy over their land or their infrastructure or even their basic necessities, utilities.
There is no real indication of that occupation ending. The other part of Gaza, or the majority parts of Gaza, I've been seeing the last 24 hours incredibly disturbing images of photos and videos of medical clinics in Gaza City, which are really squalid. I mean, it's complete squalor. Of course, the weather is still very cold in Gaza. So, sure.
This is Khan Yunis. It's so sad. It's nothing but tense.
Having some money on the table is not irrelevant, but the question is, what is that money for and who is it trying to appease? And I fear this is not about helping Palestinians at all.
So where do you think the money is going to go then?
To Trump's bank account.
Well, if history is any guide, having looked at these issues in other countries, often that money goes to contractors in, for example, the US, Europe, or the Arab world. I've done lots of work on disaster capitalism in Afghanistan and Haiti and elsewhere in the last 2 decades, and regularly what happens is locals occasionally get some scraps here and there, but generally it goes to contractors, to outside forces. And
Trump has said that he wants to contract people to make buildings and to rebuild Gaza. He wants to put a fucking Trump Tower in Gaza. I'll take that legitimately. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I just genuinely continue to be upset about what's happening in Gaza.
The vision that Jared Kushner showed recently in Davos, these kind of high-rise buildings and shiny apartments, etc. It's not really clear who they're going to be for, who can actually afford that, beyond a vision which essentially tries to build on the bones of Palestinians. I mean, just in the last 24 hours, the respected Lancet outlet publication in the UK put out a report that found that the death toll in Gaza is almost certainly way more than the roughly 75,000 of the official figure. So ultimately, without some kind of accounting of that, some accountability, what are we exactly building on here? We're building on bones. That's basically what is happening.
Yeah, the number here, 75,000 people. Like, I imagine a year ago, like the formal number was like 40,000 or something, but even at that point, like, professional third-party estimates were already guessing several, like 100,000 or more, and it's now February of 2026. October 7th was in 2023. I can't even begin to guess what the official number is, but I feel like we are close to approaching a reduction in the population of Gaza, very close to being almost half here soon. When this all started, I believe the population was 2 million.
Here, a proposal to build on bones, and that's not even clear who it's actually for.
Anthony, can I ask you then, because I think it's probably clear why a number of countries have refused to take part, even if they haven't been explicit in that refusal. But is it not better that they do try to take part in this, if there is no other alternative being offered, that they do have a seat at the table and they do have a say at that table as to what happens in Gaza?
It's a fair question, and in many ways, there is no viable alternative right now. There are certainly alternatives that have been proposed by many in Palestine, in Gaza, even some in Israel, of the more right-minded, progressive, I mean, not far right. But the reality is the UN has been sidelined. I think it's clear that the Board of Peace is attempting to replace the UN in both Gaza and elsewhere. The problem is that the agenda, how do you have a legitimate process when there are literally no Palestinians? And also note in the last 24 hours that the so-called vision of the Trump...
Well, and to be blatant, as I said earlier, the main hurdle in the United Nations to resolving what has happened in Israel and Palestine, the main hurdle is the United States and Israel. They are the two bodies globally that are preventing any kind of progress happening forward. So the Board of Peace is not a viable alternative path towards this solution because at the front of everything is Donald fucking Trump. And I'm not arguing with this correspondent here from Sydney. I'm just kind of iterating a little bit more on what he's already saying.
Administration, which was leaked to a UK newspaper, is that the so-called ISIS-affiliated gangs that Israel has been funding in Gaza, which has been the case for a long time, long before the ceasefire, and it continues to this day, are the potential police force in this new rebranded Gaza. Now, again, whose agenda is that serving? And sure, it's a legitimate question to ask. It's better to have a seat at the table, but the table has to be having four legs. And I fear that the reality is it's basically three legs, if not two, and the real agenda is not to help Palestinians. So I can see the logic of many nations potentially joining, but I don't think it's about helping Palestinians. I think it's about wanting to be close to Washington and Israel.
Anthony, thank you as always for your insight and your time. Anthony Lowenstein joining us from Sydney.
No, he makes great points. Anthony Lowenstein. Thank you.
Don't miss out at the full.
All right. We're going to watch these other two videos talking about the Board of Peace. And I do want to talk a little bit more in depth about the potential war with Iran. That they haven't truly talked on that. So we'll do that before we move on to our next topic as well.
President Donald Trump's Board of Peace has held its first meeting in Washington, D.C., with members pledging a multi-billion aid package to rebuild Gaza. Representatives from more than 40 countries attended the meeting 1 month after the group was officially launched. Trump said members have agreed to pledge $7 billion for a Gaza relief package, a fraction only of the estimated $70 billion needed to rebuild the territory. Trump also announced that 5 countries have agreed to deploy troops to the territory as part of an international stabilization force.
That will not be a stabilization force. That will be an occupation beyond what's already present. Israel had already established an occupation, and then Trump said, I feel like I've really financed this. So instead of Israel getting to keep their occupation, instead, I want it. So the United States hereby claims this territory as liberated.
Key U.S. allies were absent from the talks, but Trump suggested more countries would soon join the board.
I believe it's the most consequential board, certainly in terms of power and in terms of prestige. There's never been anything close because these are the greatest world leaders. Almost everybody's accepted, and the ones that haven't will be.
Everyone who came to my party is cool, and everyone who decided not to come is lame.
Some are playing a little cute. It doesn't work. You can't play cute with me. But they're playing a little bit. But they're all joining. Everybody, most of them very immediately.
Now, the Board of Peace was originally intended to oversee a ceasefire and reconstruction in Gaza, but its mandate has seemingly expanded since. And critics see Trump's new council as an attempt to undermine the United Nations.
the inauguration of the Board of Peace in Davos, Switzerland in late January. Donald Trump was not shy about its potential.
This board has the chance to be one of the most consequential bodies ever created, and it's my enormous honor to serve as its chairman. I was very honored when they asked me to do it.
The Board of Peace was originally supposed to be part of Phase 2 of Trump's Gaza peace plan, but now it's become a work in progress with an expanding mission. The draft charter now says the board will tackle conflicts the world over. There's a $1 billion fee to become a permanent member. The U.S. says 60 countries have been invited. An odd mix of world leaders. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, Russia's Vladimir Putin, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, whose country is fighting a bloody war with Russia. Canada was invited, but Trump later took back the invitation. Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are joining.
What is this frame? Goodness. I was going to say that, like, him inviting Ukraine, I guess Trump, one way or the other, doesn't really have an opinion on Russia or Ukraine. At least it doesn't signal like that to me. So he constantly is just inviting both of them to his parties, and he's like, who's going to appease me? But, like, yeah, that's strange. I had not heard that Ukraine had received an invitation.
Several countries have already signaled they won't take part or have said flat out no, including traditional U.S. allies France, Germany, and the UK. Pope Leo has also declined and says he backs the United Nations to settle conflicts. Trump denies that the board is...
It's also interesting to me that individuals and bodies, like the United Nations was invited, and I don't understand how that doesn't really make sense to me, because I thought this was an alternative to the United Nations. So the fact that even Pope Leo was invited, it really makes me question what is the infrastructure here. You know what I mean? I doubt that even Donald Trump himself knows. He's like, I just want big celebrities, countries, whoever. My Board of Peace. It's strange.
Meant to replace the UN, but has complained about the UN's ineffectiveness in the past.
I wish the United Nations could do more. I wish we didn't need a Board of Peace, but
I wish the United Nations would do more. It's not like I stopped them from doing everything that they want to.
Worries that the $1 billion price tag means only rich countries can pay to play.
Which is no one here.
Imposing peace as it wishes.
Earlier, I spoke to Yossi Meckelberg. He's a senior consulting fellow with the Middle East and North Africa program at Chatham House, and I asked him how much progress can really be made for lasting peace in Gaza without key players at the table, like, for example, the Palestinian Authority.
Become a trend in U.S. foreign policy not to include Palestine. It happened in the Trump first administration when they announced the peace plan back then, and it was President Netanyahu and President Trump, and Prime Minister Netanyahu there, but no Palestinian representative. And this is just a repeat of the same thing. You can't have peace unless all sides that engage in this conflict are there and present. And
the more the camera pans, the more I'm just seeing more of the White House administration. I was like, oh, J.D. Vance, you dork, get out of here. And then Marco Rubio pulled up, and I'm like, whoa, okay, it's just the United States. We'll decorate it with other dignitaries from lesser countries, but at the end of the day, this is the American show.
Involved and engage, and this is not going to happen. But we also need to think that the Board of Peace started as specifically dealing with Gaza, with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and now it became some sort of a substitute for the United Nations without some of the major powers there. So again, it's all out of the Trump's playbook, which we basically play day by day.
Yeah. The countries who have joined the so-called Board of Peace, are they really interested in peace in the Middle East or just in staying in Donald Trump's good graces?
Anyways. All right. The next video I think I had was Donald Trump's entire speech when he remarks at inaugural Board of Peace meeting at Gaza reconstruction, blah, 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 blah. This is going to be nothing but propaganda. I have no interest in listening to 47 minutes of Trump's ramblings. It's going to be, every Trump speech is exactly the same. It's always like, I'm so awesome. I did cool stuff. Also, I'm still holding that grudge from like 2 months ago. Blah, 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 blah. I want to talk about the real potential threat of a United States war with Iran. United States war with Iran. I thought everything we've kind of looked at already would touch on that a little bit more. So we're going to kind of similar topic, but just a slightly different angle. So let me turn this topic from Board of Peace to war with Iran. I do think the Board of Peace will have relevancy in the potential war with Iran. Because, like, if anything, the Board of Peace signals to the rest of the the rest of the world alliances. These countries are allied with the United States in a situation where war with Iran breaks out. There's the Allied powers and the Axis powers, the sequel. You know what I mean? That's just kind of what the Board of Peace signals to me, but maybe not. We'll see what happens in the future. But let's go ahead and pull up some of these videos. We'll do another Al Jazeera. We'll come back to that. We've got Face the Nation. And then DW News again. I don't know if I want to watch a half-hour video from DW News. We'll start here.
The White House has warned that Iran would be very wise to make a deal on its nuclear program. The comments come a day after a second round of indirect talks ended with no significant breakthrough.
The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration.
Now, Barbara Slavin is a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center.
They continue to frame it as deal making, and it's such a weird. It's genuinely such a weird approach to talking about global relations.
So she specializes in Iran, and she's convinced.
It's like, okay, you Iran, you're facing accusations of I know very little truly about the protests that are happening in Iran. Full transparency, it's also another topic I need to familiarize myself more with. Unfortunately, like, that's just not my 9 to 5 anymore. I would love for it to become my 9 to 5. That way I'm more just informed on a lot of the stuff that's happening around the world, but it's not. But my understanding is that Iran is going through an insane amount of protest. I heard there was a massacre. I don't have the context. But regardless, the Trump administration's framing of this as like, all right, you guys are doing some bad stuff over there. What are you going to do? What kind of deal are you going to strike with us so that we look the other way? And it's like, that's not how that's not how global relations are supposed to be handled. And again, it's Trump. So of course he's going to look at everything through the lens of capitalism and deal making and profit. But Jesus fucking Christ, I'm speaking to the choir on this.
there will be distinguished
Trump and with this administration.
Now, Barbara Slavin is a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center. She specializes in Iran, and she's convinced there will be further attacks on Iran by the US and Israel, and possibly soon.
It seems that the Trump administration has decided that it is going to attack Iran again, and I presume in conjunction with the Israelis. What the objectives are, we have yet to see. Can it be contained? Will others be drawn in? These are all really important questions, and we don't have answers to them.
I don't think it will be very successful. The last time that Israel fucked around with Iran, my apologies. I'm getting a cramp in my leg. Ouch. Iran retaliated and penetrated the Iron Dome around Israel and were able to successfully attack different military sites. I believe it was Iran, or was it Lebanon? Iran retaliated. I remember that. Hold on. Iran successfully penetrates Iron Dome. June 2025. But this was a retaliatory attack. Because what was the context? Did we attack Iran or did we attack one of their allies? I don't remember. But I remember that Israel successfully hit civilian populations, and that was the reason for the response from Iran.
Frankly, I do not see a basis for an agreement yet. It seems that the United States is still demanding that Iran have no uranium enrichment whatsoever, that Iran give up its stockpiles of enriched uranium, and there may be other demands regarding missiles, proxies, etc.
Proxies, that's what they called the allied nations of Iran. I don't know. I don't know if we went to war with Iran or any of its proxies, if Israel started just blasting their civilian populations, Iran and their proxies' civilian populations would be what takes the brunt force. They would have a continued reason to escalate because what are they going to do? Curl over and fucking die? No, of course not. And so here at home, domestically, in Israel, the rest of the world watching it all will continue to call it a failure on behalf of the United States and Israel. It's not productive, but is productivity the goal of Trump and the United States? It never certainly seems to be. It just seems to be chaos, panic.
Iran has said that it is willing not to enrich uranium for some time. This is logical, since much of its program is in ruins from the last American and Israeli attack, but it will not give up the right to enrich uranium. And it's talked about setting up some sort of regional consortium which would be based in Iran. So it's not going to give this up, as far as I can tell. Frankly, it doesn't look as though these talks were very extensive. As they mentioned, they lasted only a couple of hours, and then Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner went on to their equally inconclusive talks with the Russians and the Ukrainians. And we do have this massive buildup. So I'm very concerned. Congress is not in session right now. The U.S. has shown a propensity to attack over weekends. We will all be, I think, very, very nervously checking the news for the next few days.
All right. And then we've got Face the Nation.
I'm going to bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, good to see you. Good morning. Want to ask about Iran, obviously. Where are we right now? How close is the U.S. to actually taking military action?
Hey, Chanel, look, the question is how close. It could happen any time. And according to CBS sources, the president has been given the option to strike as early as this weekend, Saturday, as a matter of fact, that the pieces are in place. It's not.
Why is it that I've heard this already? not this coverage, but rather the consensus that this weekend a conflict will be happening. I'm just shocked that this is the second time I've heard this, and I don't understand why it's the case.
Optimal, it's not ideal. There are a couple of things that are still moving around for if there were to be attacks against Iran, because most importantly in that region, they're going to be concentrating on force protection. And there you're going to want to make sure that you're as tooled up as you could possibly
There's the
get.
Board
now,
of
right
Peace.
now, the Abraham Lincoln carrier is there, carrier strike group. There are...
Oh, that's why I heard, because the like fucking super plane or whatever was recently seen heading to the area.
At least a dozen warships just with the Lincoln itself, pardon me.
Jesus. That's the second time on CBS that someone's phone has gone off.
Just with the Lincoln itself, and guided missile cruisers, guided missile destroyers, F-18s on board the Lincoln now. What's on the way there and should be there soon, probably by Monday or Tuesday, is the USS Gerald R. Ford. That's another aircraft carrier, and with it comes another 3 destroyers. Now it's going into the Mediterranean, I think, actually, as we speak today. Once you have those 2 aircraft carriers in place, then you are set for better positioned if you were to launch military strikes in Iran. So yes, could it happen this weekend? Absolutely. And our sources say the president has been given those options. All of the pieces will be in place probably early next week, where you're going to have both of those carriers in that neighborhood and operational. Again, not just to strike Iran if that is the plan, but to provide force protection to tens of thousands of U.S. troops that are there. We've also learned in the past 24 hours or so that a number of U.S. personnel have been pulled back from the Middle East to parts of Europe and the United States. Again, another indicator, at least the rising tensions, even as these talks continue.
So, Charlie, can I ask you 2 questions? One, is this simply a pressure tactic with Iran? Because we know that there are diplomatic negotiations happening even as we speak. And 2, what would this military operation look like? I mean, we saw one a few months ago, a sustained campaign of about 12 days. This would perhaps be longer, but you know, having covered military affairs for the entirety of your career, that you can bomb a country to oblivion, and still, and the Israelis are figuring that out now. I mean, Hamas is still in Gaza. You can bomb and bomb and bomb. The only way to actually secure any kind of territory is with boots on the ground.
Hold on, I'll let him finish that thought, actually.
Is that an option?
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Hamas is not like a fucking organization. For me, Hamas is the exact same thing in Gaza as Antifa is here in the United States. It truly is just kind of a resistance force to the governing bodies, respectively. Every time a Hamas fighter dies, that is the brother, the son, the father of someone existing in Gaza, in Palestine. And every time you kill one of them, their families and relatives will seek vengeance on behalf of those who have fallen. And me saying that shit now, as the United States government is auditing fucking Reddit, Facebook, Meta, blah, 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 like, I know it absolutely puts a fucking target on my head, on my back. But the fact of the matter is, they simply seek liberation from occupation. Palestinians, Gazans, just don't want to be under the rule and control of Israel. Same as how us in the United States are fucking tired of the federal government, of ICE agents, of capitalism, blah, blah, we just want to be able to live our lives. And by no means, I shouldn't be making that kind of comparison. Palestinians and Gazans have suffered a lot more than Americans have. But trying to come up with an allegorical comparison like that. That's the first thing that came to my mind. What the fuck was I saying? Oh, so when Israel, as much as they would love to just eliminate Hamas, that isn't a thing. You would have to genocide the entire population of Palestine. And you know what? Israel had that realization, and they're like, you know what? We'll commit a genocide against the Palestinians.
Gaza, you can bomb and bomb and bomb.
I like the point he made though about boots on the ground though, like outside of the fact that you just bomb them all to death and kill an entire population, you could just invade.
The only way to actually secure any kind of territory is with boots on the ground. Is that an option?
I mean, yes. It's not a popular one.
Yeah, well, Vlad, let's...
Are we suggesting invading Iran and occupying it along with everywhere else we already do?
Let's take part one there. So this is...
Would Israel be a part of that? Would Israel invade and have boots on the ground in Iran? Are we capable of that? Iran is huge compared to the other MENA nations. I don't know what their military looks like and their like boots on the ground combat kind of style of resistance would look like.
It's part of what the White House calls a maximum pressure campaign, right? So it's deterrence, it's staring down the barrel of a gun, it's gunboat diplomacy, et cetera, to put pressure, military pressure, on Iran. And Iran is obviously paying very close attention to that.
Like, oh man, this is an angle I didn't consider, but now that he's posed it to this correspondent, it's got me thinking as well. The fucking United States population, we are already at wit's end regarding the Epstein files, ICE invasions, or like the ICE invading and occupying Minneapolis, Minnesota. The idea that we would begin sending troops to Iran hadn't even hit my mind, because warfare nowadays is just conducted using drones and missiles and strikes and shit. No one's actually like going and risking their lives. We're sending robots and bombs. The idea of, in this political climate that we find ourselves in right now, of sending U.S. troops to occupy a nation, would we... I don't know what would happen. We could speculate all I want. The economic situation here, part of me was like, economically, we're already on the verge of a disaster. The national debt's interest rate outpaces GDP. But in the past, when trying to address depression, one of the strategies that nations have utilized to try to address economic crisis is by going to war. And we are the best at that shit. I don't think it would help us. I'm not an economist by any means, but this is an element I just hadn't been thinking of or considered.
Now, when you talk about what they're going to attack, right, the U.S. military calls it strike packages. And as it's been explained to me, you have this sort of smaller tier where you're talking about limited strikes, where you're going to go after, say, Iran's missile programs, Iran's nuclear facilities, as was done back last June, Operation Midnight Hammer. Again, very limited strikes. Those are B-2s, which aren't obviously even in the neighborhood. They left from the United States. Then, if they're going to, and this is what they're preparing for, officials have shared this with me, if there is to be a wider scale attack in Iran, where the regime sees this as sort of an existential threat, there would be an increased number. You'd be going after Iran's defenses, its missiles, essentially everything. It would be a war. And they expect that Iran is going to fight back. And that is what they're preparing for. Not just the strikes inside Iran, but the way Iran will retaliate, because they are still fully capable of that.
A fragile situation for sure. Charlie D'Agata, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jesus. Yeah, I guess to put a bow on all of this, it's not a pretty bow, it's rather confusing and ugly. I don't even know why in the world in the first place do we want to go to war with Iran? There's not a genuine good explanation. I mean, the Trump administration is saying that it's because of their the massacre or whatever that happened. I'm talking very ignorantly about Iran, so maybe we should take a moment to educate ourselves on that. What is the Iran massacre? Over 36,500 killed in Iran's deadliest massacre, documents reveal. This was January 25th. More than, let me minimize myself and also zoom in on this article real quick. This is from Iran INTL, Iran International, right? More than 36,000 Iranians were killed by security forces during the January 8th to 9th crackdown on nationwide protests, making it the deadliest two-day protest massacre in history. Why were they protesting? Iran International's editorial board can confirm the death toll after reviewing newly obtained classified documents, field reports, and accounts with medical staff, witnesses, and victims' families. The new information provides a clear picture of the killing pattern and the scale of a crime that can now be described as the largest and bloodiest massacre of civilians over a two-day period in history. Iran International has received reports and evidence indicating the extrajudicial execution of a number of detainees in Tehran and other cities. Images released from morgues leave little doubt that some wounded citizens were shot in the head while hospitalized and undergoing medical treatment. It is evident that had these individuals sustained fatal head wounds on the streets, there would have been no reason to admit them to hospital or begin treatment in the first place. I'm not familiar with why they were protesting, but like the general summary is kind of what I was familiar with. And the Trump administration, Donald Trump, is very much trying to get into conflict with Iran with the justification of protecting human rights in the region. I don't buy that whatsoever. I think it's just another thing of like wanting to go to war and use the war as a way to unify the United States of America under the leadership of the great Donald Trump. I don't think it's genuine. I think Donald Trump just wants to continue to detract from the Epstein files. I've been saying that for several weeks now. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that summation of the conflict. Maybe I'm reducing this to being much simpler than it actually is, but yeah, I think fascism has taken way too much of a hold and grip here in the United States, and Donald Trump is exploring every single possibility he can to try to both save face and to ensure that there is a future for him that doesn't receive prosecution or accountability. He's just trying to keep his head above water until he fucking dies. And I think it's in the interest of everyone who has allied themselves with Trump since he got into office. Because everyone else is younger. Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, JD Vance. I think they all see the writing on the wall. It's like this experiment that you guys decided to go down has completely hit the fan. You need to do everything you can to either take full control right now of the United States, the government, the fucking nation, the world while you're at it. Do everything you can to take power now, or not dig your head in the sand or whatever the alternative is. Like, jump ship, but I'm not seeing them jumping ship. I think the administration is determined to try to obtain as much power as possible before 2028. It's not looking good for them, but also that's why they're accelerating. The administration wants to accelerate to mass suicide. The MAGA movement is a suicide cult. Like, anyways. All right. Let's watch a few videos of students beating the shit out of grown adults who are coming to their ICE protests. PBS. No, thanks. I don't want to subscribe. Let's look at this PBS article real quick. Poll, nearly 2/3 of Americans say ICE has gone too far in immigration crackdown. Americans largely disapprove. Oh, I need to update the topic. Hold on. ICE protests. There we go. Updated. Americans say ICE, blah, blah, blah. Americans largely disapprove of the actions of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents as recent enhanced enforcement operations spread to new cities across the country, a new PBS News NPR Marist poll found. A majority say ICE is making Americans less safe, and a growing number believe the agency's actions have gone too far. Meanwhile, anti-ICE protests that have grown in size and visibility in recent weeks are viewed by a majority of Americans as mostly legitimate and not unlawful. 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of the job ICE is doing, while about 3 in 10 approve. Opinions about the agency and its actions are sharply divided along political lines, with 91% of Democrats and 66% of independents registering their disapproval. Republicans, however, remain supportive, with 73% approving of the agency's work. That's crazy to me, that 73%. That was on February 5th? Well, February 5th. Hold on. When did Alex Jeffrey Preddy... What was the date of his death again? January 24th. That's crazy that on February 5th, PBS is reporting that 73% of Republicans are still supportive. I recognize that many people, I think over a dozen, maybe more, people have died at the hands of ICE. But Renee Nicole Good's death and Alex Jeffrey Preddy's death have been the large stories that have woken white people up to kind of what ICE is doing. And so I would have expected with Alex's death, even Republicans to kind of be more disapproving of ICE's handling. But yeah, I don't know. I guess in one capacity you could say 1 in 4 Republicans disapproves, but that's still 3 in 4. The situation has put Donald Trump in an untenable position, said Lee Miringoff, director of the Marist Institute for Public Opinion. Pictures and videos of armed and masked immigration agents detaining people, including U.S. citizens, on the streets of American cities have flooded social media in recent weeks. As Americans see these those recent arrests, as well as shootings from multiple angles, the bad imagery has led to a dramatic shift in support. Okay. Well, anyways, I don't think this is new news. I really just want to look at all these student protesters, because like even here in Arizona, so much of like local news coverage from what I've seen has been reporting on just different high schools that have been like making organized protests of their disapproval of ICE. This is just another article. Oh, here. Okay. So this went viral on February 3rd from the looks of it. 7 million views. We're going to watch it again. Kyle, Texas, video circulating from Report Austin shows an adult attempting to put hands on high school students during the protest, and the students defended themselves. We'll watch it again. Oop. With the Minecraft backpack. Does he have a bat in his hand? Oh no, it's not a bat. It's just cardboard. Love that. Love those students for standing together against a grown-ass man trying to lay hands on one of their own. But a new video of another grown-ass man trying to put his hands on children has come out. This dork ass. Where's the volume? I know there's audio. Oh, here it is. That one, though, this one infuriates me. That this guy got up and, like, that's a very clear swing. He's got a hold on this kid right here. And he lands a punch on a minor. That's wild. The bravery of this teacher to like step between all these students and this man. And she's like directing them too. She's like, she's not as scared of this man as she is of the rage of these students to fucking tear this man limb from limb. Because, like, he approaches her, and he's pointing aggressively at her face, and she's, like, clearly put off by him, but she more so wants to direct these students to stop. Holy shit. Let him grab his hat and get away. Because this piece of shit was put in place by these students. He is walking with his tail between his legs out of this situation. And I'm pretty sure he was arrested. Let's read this Yahoo News article. Identify him. I need his name. I need this piece of shit's name. 2 weeks after a Republican was arrested for getting violent with student protesters, that's the other video we saw, about 150 students walked out of a Nebraska high school to protest U.S. immigration and customs enforcement and ended up teaching a different MAGA supporter a lesson after he allegedly assaulted a student. I don't know if we could say it allegedly. Like, we saw that shit on camera. Oh, a 54-year-old named Michael Brown, dork ass, was arrested after an alleged violent altercation broke out when he attacked a teenager with Grand Island Senior High School, or from Grand Island Senior High School, who was part of the student-led anti-ICE protest. According to Grand Island Police Division Chief Dean Elliott, Brown drove his vehicle near the student protesters, yelling pro-ICE comments at the group. One of the teens responded by throwing a water bottle that allegedly struck Brown in the face while he was driving. Elliott said that Brown then got out of his vehicle and chased the female student whom he thought was guilty of throwing the water bottle. In video footage of the incident that is making the rounds on social media, a group of students appear to rush to the teenage girl's defense and wrestle Brown to the ground. He can then be seen getting up, his mouth bloody, before he continues to point and yell at the students and retrieve what looks like a MAGA hat from the ground. Grand Island police say a man... I feel like we already read this, right? Is this a different... Whatever. Congratulations to Michael Brown for losing your fight that you had with teenagers and then being arrested as a result. Dork ass. MAGA. All right. Last video. The People's Hero. I don't know this kid's name. I have no interest in learning this kid's name. But the internet has rallied around this last video here. I've seen so much pieces of art being made of this kid. And I genuinely, I'm here for it. I'm here for this love and support of this student here. We've got a student, high school student apparently. Let's see, does the Facebook post here have information? Ignore the fact that I watch Legends of Advantris. Yeah. Very little information about this high school. Probably appropriately.
Law enforcement.
Given that it's a high school, we don't really need to... Oh, hold on. The camera has the high school. Lake Zurich High School. Leave the kids alone. Don't go to this high school or anything.
We support ICE and...
But you've got a student in the hallways protesting pro-ICE sympathies. And then another student hears him and then decides to stand on business.
Law enforcement. I support ICE.
That's crazy, bro.
I don't know what's crazy about this.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you.
You're gonna punch me?
Yes.
And you're gonna get in trouble for that.
Okay.
Whoa. Chill out, bro. I stand for my beliefs.
In front of the security guard, too.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you.
You're gonna punch me?
Yes.
And you're gonna get in trouble for that.
Okay. I think, if anything, this demonstrates just the general tone of how Americans are feeling about what's happening in America. Hold on. You're gonna get in trouble. Okay. Let's see. There's already, like, just the Google results. There's already, like, some fan art of this kid. And the fact that there's fan art, again, it just speaks to the general sentiment that America has. I'm going to let this be. I don't want to bring too much attention to this one student. I'm sure he's been disciplined as a result of his actions. I commemorate him for sticking to his morals against the occupying body that is ICE in our cities. Obviously, I've covered here before that there are ICE agents here in Arizona, and that several raids have already happened in Phoenix. We're seeing protests all over the country rejecting the idea that ICE agents would be in our cities, taking our neighbors and people who have a I can't even find the words to kind of like summarize my feelings on ICE. It's abhorrent. Both the abduction of citizens and non-citizens alike, but then just engaging in murder and violence, the abduction of people without utilizing due process. And I think if anything, this student's decision to punch a pro-ICE protester speaks more to the fact that liberalism as a whole has become weaponized by people who would promote right-wing ideology. The idea that we should engage in civil discussion and platform people who want ICE to continue to act in the way that it has. And it's not just ICE, it's all aspects of political discourse. The far right's desire to take away civil liberties and rights from women, minorities, the LGBTQ community, in all facets. Like these are forms of violence that manifest without anyone touching one another. You know what I mean? And then the right propagates those ideas, but then looks back at their biggest critics and says, I guess the only way you can solve this problem is by talking it out with us. And it is why you're seeing a growing amount of former centrists and liberals moving left, because they are recognizing that even the ideological aspirations to talk things out civilly aren't working. And it's truly devolving to just a matter of if we want to bring peace to America, the only solution is to engage in punching Nazis. And I think that's why this high school student punching a pro-ICE student resonates with so many people on the left, be them liberals or leftists. I don't know if liberals would truly celebrate a student punching another, but I think that explains the sentiment behind why he's been celebrated for what he's done. He stands on business, and I support him. Anyways, what is this? Trump administration is trying to criminalize supporting ICE. I feel like I skipped past this article. It is 9:30. Let's come back to the agenda real quick. Okay. It's 9:30. We've been live now for nearly 2.5 hours. I am struggling to find my words. When I stream, I feel very confident in the moment about how I'm talking. This stream, I feel like I've been talking and doing a very poor job of like kind of communicating my thoughts. And the last time I streamed and watched back just kind of my stream, because I'm trying to get better at doing this whole political commentary thing. I feel like I did a very poor job of communicating my thoughts and my reasoning, not just like my opinions, but why I held those opinions and like what they're founded on. And that was on a stream that I feel like I was very confident in the moment. Right now, I feel tired and I feel like I'm doing a very poor job of explaining myself. So I think we're going to kind of breeze through this last topic of Tucker Carlson being detained in Israel. One, because I feel like he didn't stay detained. I feel like he was detained briefly and then ended up just coming back to the United States. I find it funny that Israel detained Tucker Carlson, but I'm also not shocked at the same time because he has become increasingly outspoken against Israel. Same as, what's her name? This is why I'm like, Candace Owens. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson both have become more and more outspoken against Israel, so I'm not shocked that in his visit to go to Israel, for whatever reason, that he was detained. We'll quickly cover it, but I don't want to be live too much longer. I'm pretty drained, honestly. Let's change the topic here. Tucker Carlson detained. Right there. Okay. Is there a video I can react to? It's so much easier watching a video instead of me making my mouth dry by reading.
Conservative American podcaster Tucker
no, thank you. Times of India, Dawn News English, Young Turks, Breaking Point.
Let's get to Tucker Carlson. All right, we had to put this one. This is just an insane situation. So for those of you who haven't been following this, Tucker Carlson arrived in Israel yesterday. He landed at the jet terminal and interviewed the ambassador Mike Huckabee after a Twitter challenge in the airport. Now, he was only there for a couple of hours, apparently did not want to leave the airport and the protection around there. Don't blame him. I wouldn't want to leave. If I were him, I would never set foot on Israeli soil, considering that, especially to go to Bethlehem or any of these Christian communities with these crazy separatists with guns who want to kill you. Like, no way.
I saw some speculation that the Israelis didn't want to let him in, and there had to be some State Department negotiations that result in him just like, okay, he's just going to Ben Gurion Airport. That's it.
Right. So the Israelis are criticizing him for not leaving the airport. Then there's also this reporting that maybe the State Department was like, no, you have to let him in, but just to interview us in ours. So who knows what happened? Anyway, here's the story from Tucker and his team. Let's put this up here on the screen. Tucker Carlson, quote, detained in Israel, journalist dragged into an interrogation room as explosive interview sparks a diplomatic firestorm. So Tucker told the Daily Mail that his producer, shortly after the interview, Israeli officials confiscated his passport, hauled one of his colleagues off to an interrogation room. Quote, men who identified themselves as airport security took our passports, hauled our executive producer into a side room, and then demanded to know what we spoke to Ambassador Huckabee about. Quote, it is bizarre. We are now out of the country.
Yeah, no. I don't think I would even summarize it as it was bizarre. I feel like... What is the most brazen thing that Tucker Carlson has said about Israel? Because I feel like it was bizarre response would be like, I don't know why they even did that. And I feel like Tucker Carlson has been a lot more brazen as of recent in his criticism of Israel. Like, you know why they investigated you, dog. You know why they detained you.
This immediately ignited a major firestorm, especially from Israeli defenders. Let's put their response up here on the screen. The Israeli foreign minister insists, quote, contrary to reports, Tucker...
Anyways. Tucker Carlson on Israel. It's all going to be recent results, and obviously this is a hot story. Genuinely, I'm fucking tired. It happened. It's a story that happened. I'm not surprised it happened, but yeah, I think we're gonna stop the stream there. I'm kind of tired. Thank you so much for joining me on the stream today. I do want to kind of talk, I guess, about the goals of the YouTube channel moving forward, along with kind of the vision I have for this YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a moment. Let me go ahead and change the topic here. The YouTube channel. Or I'll make it this YouTube channel. This YouTube channel. Boom. All right. Let's go ahead and put the lo-fi on since we're switching topics here. All right. So, we've been live streaming now for about a month. This is probably my 4th or 5th live stream, talking politics and news and all things kind of happening in the world. And I'm very happy to be doing this. I want to continue to regularly have these streams on Thursdays. I'm proud of myself for committing every Thursday, regardless of how tired I am after work, to kind of commit to this. I've been doing a very poor job of taking clips from my recent streams, or from my streams, and then posting them on social. So that is a personal goal of mine that I want to start implementing more into the YouTube channel. But also, the way I envisioned in approaching the YouTube channel was to have a balanced commitment to news and politics, along with the more lighthearted topics and like kind of fun hyper fixations I have myself. I love music, and I very much want to integrate some kind of music content in this YouTube channel. I have a podcast idea that I've been sitting on for well over 2 years at this point that I do want to commit to making on this YouTube channel. So I hope to make a formal kind of announcement for that podcast, and at the moment I think I will be committing to making that podcast on Sundays. The production for that podcast, I know, will be pretty similar to what this is, where it's just a live kind of podcast, and then the entire podcast will be clipped and then placed online, probably the same Sunday in its entirety. The YouTube my politics and news coverage tends to get edited for the sake of easier consumption on YouTube. I don't think I would take this entire live and then just cut it or with no editing and then put it on YouTube. This, I feel like, because of how poor of a job I do sometimes at covering these stories, needs some editing to make it a little bit prettier for consumption later. But the podcast, I don't think would need that. I think it would be perfectly fine live and then put on YouTube. So I'll just kind of need to take a look at my my capacity to do that on Sundays. I'm pretty sure I can do that, and that will provide, again, like I said, my viewers the ability to have serious discussion about what's happening in the world, but then also have a healthy escape on Sundays where there can be some more lighthearted content that can be consumed. On that note as well, I want to make video essays in both capacities, having a bit of a yin and yang situation where there's mature addressing of like, this is what's happening in the world, and these are topics that are important to me, balanced with some of my hyperfixations and things that I enjoy that bring me joy and happiness in my life. That is what I want this YouTube channel to be, where there's not a constant amount of escapism being had in this YouTube channel, because I think that's unhealthy to avoid what's happening in the world and not look at it and address it maturely. But like, if that's all this YouTube channel is, like, that would drive me insane. I think it would drive my audience insane. I have a lot of respect for political commentators like Hassan Piker, Vosh, other content creators who do nothing but political consumption and commentary. But like, I don't know how you have a healthy relationship with content creation. It drives me insane, and I was someone who used to work in the mainstream media, so that's just my thoughts on this YouTube channel and what I want to do going forward. I spent a good amount of time yesterday updating my YouTube assets. You can see that I've updated my name because I've changed my name recently. I wanted to change my legal name, and obviously my social media reflected that decision. So I've added my Instagram and my TikTok to the overlays and some of the other kind of assets for the YouTube channel. I need to make a couple more assets for the YouTube channel because I really want to make this a fine-tuned thing that we have here. So yeah, if you've been listening to my rantings here at the end of the stream, I appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of the channel at its onset. It's truly exciting. And I guess the last thing I'll say here before we end the stream is to remain optimistic. I think giving into apathy, doomerism, nihilism is the worst possible thing that we can do right now in the times that we exist in. And if you're struggling to see hope on the horizon, reach out to people in your life, form communities with your neighbors. Don't let yourself isolate away from the rest of the world, because that, I think, is what the people who lead this nation, who want us to give into doomerism, that is ultimately what they want. And I think a better world is possible. We've seen the hope that can be ignited in people's lives if you followed Mom Donnie's mayoral race, the New York mayoral race, and you see what's happening in New York. It's inspiring. It's inspired me. I think it's important to just have hope. So that's what I'm trying to do as best as I can here on this YouTube channel. I know my commentary can get really pessimistic, I guess is the way to put it, but I can't express enough how much I think, how optimistic I am for the future in spite of everything that is happening right now. And in large part because of the people that I interact with in my day-to-day life. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully we don't see the United States strike Iran this weekend, and instead we can have just a nice, relaxing weekend. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for being here. I'm exhausted. I'll see you later. Peace.